would never realistically expect that of another person even necessarily, but we expect that of ourselves. And I think that that creates a lot of stress.
My biggest tip with for stress is really to revisit your relationship with control. For a lot of people, we haven't really examined or really quite understood our relationship with control.
Yeah.
And especially for folks that, highly educated and are hard charging, we tend to be control freaks. Let's just call it what it is.
One of the things that I've learned to do is develop a deeper relationship with how my body reacts to stress. And what that does for me is it allows me to recognize it quicker. So, Dinesh, I woke up this morning to a missed text from my kid that was sent at 1 a.m. asking for help.
Oh, man.
Yes, he was not home and he was asking me to come pick him up from his sleepover.
Oh.
And what I woke up to, I try not to make it a habit to look at my phone first thing in the morning, but I did. And that was what I saw was, Mommy, I know you're probably sleeping, but if you're up, can you come pick me up?
Was he okay?
He's okay. He's okay. But it was really the inspiration for today's episode. Because I think as a parent, you can relate. There's just a certain something that happens to you when you think about the idea that, your kid is asking you for help and you didn't or couldn't give that to them. Right. Yeah. So that was what got me thinking about stress. Now, in this case, it stressed me out because there were a lot of things that I didn't know about the situation, right? So I found myself sort of catastrophizing about, first of all, I went through this guilt, right? Of, oh my gosh, why didn't you hear the text? And then it's like, well, your phone's on Do Not Disturb at night. And even if it pings, like it allows your favorites to come through, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not going to hear a single buzz in the middle of the night. So I let the guilt go, but then I started thinking like, well, I found myself sort of blaming him. Like, why didn't he just call? If he really needed me, why didn't he just call? Like, he clearly thinks that I'm not maybe going to be able to answer him because I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
So logically,
Isn't
call.
it, it's an interesting point you're making that you went there. Isn't it interesting how quickly we can turn into the victim?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so I went from, and I'm talking in the matter of maybe 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Went from shock, needing to process, to guilt, to blame. And then I caught myself and was like, okay, I'm feeling stress and there's a whole lot I can do about it here, right? So I went to a place of empowerment.
Yeah.
Right? Because I have these tools that it's taken me years to develop and I'm still working on them. But, so I thought about, after all was said and done, all right, there's a lot of assumptions I'm making here. And so I went and took my deep breaths. I thought about, what is it that my brain is freaking out about? The unknown. What is it, the unknown that I'm thinking about?
Yeah.
And what are reasons that I don't need to freak out? Right?
Yeah.
Like, what are ways to kind of talk myself off the ledge here?
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of get into that with you today, because I know you have some really incredible techniques and perspectives that you use on the regular to help you manage a very full and busy life. And I know I do too.
Always fun to talk about our favorite non-human condition, limbic hijack. Right?
So not human, right? That never happens to anybody that's human.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us tend to demonize stress as well. Like, it's almost like we want to be stress-free, but the reality is stress is a part of life. That's just, and I think it's actually a good thing.
Yeah.
In small doses.
Stress is not the problem, right?
Right.
And frankly, I believe that all of stress, most of us, someone's going to come back and fact check me. We're in debate season.
Right.
And well, I said all, but let's hedge. Let's say most of stress, right? I'll do
Right.
the lawyer thing. Let's hedge. Most of stress is personal and simply created by ourselves when, one of a number of factors such as uncertainty, lack of information, any one of things is sort of in us, and then we feel stress. And the important thing too is not that we feel stress or we shouldn't feel stress. I think it's stress, like you said, stress is a good thing, but what we do with the stress, right?
Right.
And sometimes we want to feel stress, right? Like
Yeah.
I've been working an insane amount this week because family and the kids are away, and yeah, it's been stressful, but it's also stretching me in a good, controlled way.
Yeah. I think you bring up a really important point there is stress is actually a powerful catalyst for growth and change and learning.
Yeah. If you're avoiding all of stress, I mean, the safest place then is in your bed or somewhere that you are not exposed to anything that will challenge you or stretch you or present an opportunity for you, an obstacle or a threat for you to navigate.
Yeah.
It's the safest place is there.
Yeah. The analogy that's coming to mind for me is like ice cream, right? Like
Yeah.
ice cream is great.
Yeah.
It's delicious. It can feel really good on a hot summer day.
Mm-hmm.
But too much ice cream is going to get you into trouble, right? So stress is no different.
Yeah. Yeah. But a lot of it is personal, right? It's what stresses one person out doesn't stress another person out. So we have to be careful with that.
So true. And so I think that that's true in a lot of ways. I think when, something that stresses somebody out, like I always like to use Munish as an example just because he's such a great one. Like for those of you who
Who?
don't know
Wait, who?
who,
Yeah.
my husband,
What's his name?
Munish.
That's not his name.
That's
Give us his real name.
Sticky Buns.
There we go.
Guys, if you don't know what we're talking about, I don't know what episode it was, but we were talking about just sneaky ways that our minds get the best of us. So go back and listen to all the episodes. You'll discover a funny pearl.
Yeah.
But he's one of my favorite examples just because he's such a great one in terms of he's a pediatric critical care physician, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he deals with life and death situations in children every single day. And that's a pretty stressful environment.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't stress him out, right? Very rarely, I should say, very rarely does it stress him out. Things have to really, 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 really be going south for him to feel it.
Yeah.
But one of the things that would stress you out, and I think it would stress me out, is because we don't have the expertise, we don't have the equipment, we don't have the knowledge, we don't have the experience. And so those are all factors that come into play when we talk about like, well, why does that not stress you out, but it stresses me out, right?
It does, but also, Seema, I think it's the meaning you apply to it.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I think our listeners, if they go back to the story at the top and they're hearing about you missing Arjun's text, right?
Right.
I think we only feel stress if we empathize and put ourselves in your shoes or his shoes, right? So I'm thinking, here's this 12-year-old boy. He's scared. He's looking for his mom. Like, man, yeah, that's scary. I feel stress, right?
Right.
Or if I put myself in your shoes, like you wake up and you're frantically wondering if your kid is okay, I feel stress. But I have to apply those meanings to it, that it's a life and death situation. I have to put myself in those shoes to feel the stress, because just hearing that you missed the text from your kid, right? Because if I found out that you missed a text when he was downstairs, right? With his dad, and there's more information there, I'm like, oh, there's nothing to be stressed about. He was downstairs, you were asleep, or something like that, right?
Exactly. It is. Meaning is powerful, and what we assign is really what will largely skew how we're seeing the situation, and how importantly, how we then use our knowledge, expertise, equipment, to navigate away from that.
Yeah. What's something that wouldn't stress people out normally, right? Like if you just think about it in like a sort of a macro perspective that stresses you out.
Oh gosh, a macro perspective.
Like most people would, kids dying, missing your
Of
kids'
course,
text,
yeah.
that we can all agree would cause most reasonable people to be stressful. But what's something, I've got one, I'll share it after you, but what's something that stresses you out that other people would be like, dude, that stresses you out?
Yeah, okay, this is a quirky one. And it's not, I wouldn't say stress,
Yeah.
but it definitely does affect me.
Yeah.
Um, so you've been to my house. My bedroom walks straight. Like when you walk out of my bedroom, it kind of what the first thing you see is the living room.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, and I really find myself having to work hard to stay in a positive place if the pillows on the couch and the blankets are not neatly put away and like arranged
Yeah.
properly before we go to bed.
Yeah.
Because when I wake up in the morning and I walk out and I see
You want to
a
see a mess.
mess,
Yeah.
right, like that, it gets to me. It doesn't stress me out,
Yeah.
but it gets to me.
I can understand that. And that doesn't bother me because like seeing a mess doesn't bother me because every morning when I wake up and I look in the mirror, I see this and it's a mess. So it
My
doesn't bother
God,
me.
I almost spit out my water there. That was really good.
But let me tell you what stresses me out, okay? That
Okay,
wouldn't stress most people out. So um, like most people, we make trash. And like most people who live in homes, like there's a trash pickup.
right.
And our trash pickup is on Friday mornings. And if our trash doesn't go on Thursday night out or Friday morning, I am beyond stress because I don't want to carry the trash for a week. Right?
Right.
Like the trash has got to go as quickly as possible. I am really stressed and concerned that we will run out of receptacle capacity and we will make more trash. So, like for me, trash is something that has to be actively managed, and you have to always have less trash than your receptacle capacity. Because the flip is then taking leaky trash bags in your
Oh,
car, or like asking a neighbor to use their bin, or just like keeping trash. And
yeah.
you can see that I've thought about this a lot. And so in my life, our trash receptacle capacity can never um, be less than our trash.
That is hilarious. I mean, so funny.
I
Because
know.
I'm thinking of all the times we've like gone on vacation and we've missed trash day, and it's annoying, yeah, that the trash is sitting there, but then you're like, well, we're going on vacation. What are you going to do?
Oh no, we don't do that. We don't let trash sit there. We line up supplementary trash removal services
Oh wow.
where our neighbor or our neighborhood covers for each other. And this morning, my neighbor Gerald, I'll give him a shout out. I don't think you listen to Gerald. You listen to this podcast, but I'll give him a shout out. He texted and he said, um, hey, we're going out of town. Would somebody please bring our bins up? And I'll tell you, I was so thrilled to volunteer to do that because I know I will be asking Gerald or Chris or Ajay or Jojo or Dharmesh, all of our neighbors. We have 6 houses in our neighborhood.
Who all listen to the show, right? All of you
I
guys.
don't know if they listen to it. We'll see. Hey, if you guys are listening to this, like hit me up. Let me know. Show us some love. But anyway, so we have this like men group thread where we look out for each other's trash. And in fact,
Yeah.
I'll put Gerald on blast. I've asked to put trash bags into Gerald's. And he's like, no. Like I don't need leaking stuff in my trash. We keep our trash bins very clean.
Wow.
We are men that take trash seriously.
That's a whole podcast in and of itself.
Yeah, it's great. But I think why we're mentioning it is, can you imagine how ruined my Friday morning would be if we're on vacation? I'm like, big F word.
Yeah.
We didn't take the trash out this week. We're gonna get back home Sunday night. I'm gonna try to take out the trash, and the bins will be full.
Oh my gosh.
My entire week would be ruined. Seema,
Right.
can you imagine that?
I truly
You feel my
feel it.
stress?
I
Yeah,
feel it in my body. Like I get it.
good.
Wow. Yeah. There's like so many tangents I want to go on, but I won't for the sake of the listeners. Um, but yeah, so I think that there's a lot of things that would, stress me out that wouldn't stress you out or vice versa,
Yeah,
all because of your perspective, the meaning that you're assigning to things.
yeah,
And, again, also importantly, the expertise and the equipment and all of that you have available to you, resources
yeah.
to deal with that stress, right?
Mhm.
So we're here listeners to give you more resources and equipment and expertise so that you can navigate your stress a little bit better. I think that what is really important here is even from a pulling out from the trash or the recycle going out on time, or whether or not you miss a text, right? Like pulling out from that. I think so many of us have become acclimated to this level of stress that is self-induced.
Yeah.
Right? It's self-created.
It becomes
And
normal.
it becomes normal.
Yeah.
Exactly. Our bodies physiologically adapt to the level of cortisol and, all the crap that's running around.
Yeah.
And I think then it's kind of what keeps us caught in this idea of like, I've got to work harder to make sure all my trash is squared away before we go on vacation, in order for me to be happy and enjoy this vacation. Or I've got to burn the midnight oil so that I can get this promotion and then I'll be happy. But now I have more work to do because I got this promotion and, all of this stuff. So from a really, really big macro perspective, we can get caught in this work hard to be happy, but the happy is elusive. And then we're stressed again.
Yes, absolutely. I am still stressed about the trash.
The trash.
Are you making fun of me, Seema, about my trash neuroses?
No, I'm empathizing because our
You feel my
recycle.
pain? Yeah.
Yes, our recycle goes out every other week.
Yeah.
And it is the frustration in this house, and I think a lot of my neighbors will share this, is like, why can't we have recycle go out every week?
Yeah.
Because the trash actually doesn't accumulate as fast as the recycle. But man, when we go on vacation and we're missing recycle week.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think my biggest tip with for stress is really to revisit your relationship with control. I think for a lot of people, we haven't really examined or really quite understood our relationship with control.
Yeah.
And especially for folks that, highly educated and are hard charging, we tend to be control freaks. Let's just call it what it is. And we want everything to go the right way. And if it's not the right way, we'll be stressed out. And we've talked about this lots of ways, perfectionism, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think that there's a lot of enough work being done on revisiting our relationship with control. And you think about, how much do I need to control the trash, right? Can I just let it be? Can I make alternate arrangements? Can I have my neighbor's kid take the trash out? And really just spending time recognizing that there's a lot of things that are outside of our control. And there are a lot of things that at the end of the day, when we catastrophize it and when we go to the worst case scenario, they don't really come true, right? It's not like we're running around thinking like, oh my God, this is going to happen and this is going to happen and then this is going to happen. And all those things come true at like a 90% hit rate.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah,
Agreed.
bad things happen. I agree. Bad things happen. But our desire to control those bad things is actually very limited if you think about it.
Oh, yeah. It's not going to make it any better or change the outcome in any way.
Right.
If you're going to have something happen that's really unwanted, and it's going to always be out of your control. So
yeah,
you can take out the trash as often as you want or fluff those pillows all you want, but
yeah, what happens when it snows and the trash truck doesn't come around, right? So that's not in my control, and I could sort of ruin my week about it. Or, you think about wanting to go to the gym, like you mentioned earlier, and not going, and then the self-flagellation that comes with it about how could you miss it, or, for you, like what you've mentioned in the past, where people judge themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that stuff is just revisiting our relationship with control.
Yeah. I'm reading this book. Actually, I finished reading it, but it's by Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah.
And it's called The New Earth. And it's not a new book. It's been out for a long time. But he talks about, basically anything that's happened in the past, like even anything beyond this very moment, and any before or after this very moment is a story, right? It's a story of what may or may not happen, or a story of what has already happened, neither of which we have control over, right? So he's talking about the importance of being present. But I love that you bring up just a reminder that we really are in control of only our own perspectives and how we respond rather than what other people might say, do, or think, or what the weather might be, or whether those pillows are fluffed and the
Yeah.
blankets folded, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Totally. That's
I
my
love
tip.
that.
Relationship, your relationship with control.
Yeah, I love that. I think for me, the other thing that's been really helpful is to learn to recognize when you're feeling stress.
Hmm.
I talked when I was sharing about Arjun being at the sleepover and me getting
Hmm.
this text, right?
Hmm.
And within the span of 10 seconds, me then realizing, oh, I'm feeling stress,
Hmm.
right? And one of the things that I've learned to do is develop a deeper relationship with how my body reacts to stress.
Mm.
And what that does for me is it allows me to recognize it quicker.
Hmm.
Right. So when you're talking about catastrophizing, right? And like, oh, the trash isn't going to go out or the whatever, and you're telling yourself the story, it's easy to let your brain run away from you.
Hmm.
And it was easy for me to let my brain run away with, gosh, did he get into like, was he being bullied?
Mm.
Was he feeling sick? Did he get hurt?
Yeah.
What, he's physically out of the house. Like, I don't know what's happening. Right. So it was very easy for me to sort of
Yeah.
go into this place of, stress.
Hmm.
But that it's a skill to learn how to understand how your body's talking to you. That's one of the reasons I really love yoga so much, but you don't need to be a
Hmm.
yoga practitioner to be able to do that.
Hmm. Yeah.
I think, you can really just start to reflect and say like, all right, what do I do
Hmm.
when I'm stressed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people know this advice, right? It's like when you
Right.
get that email and you're angry, you don't write back, right? That's being aware.
Right.
But one thing I was some advice that an amazing man named Trevor McGregor shared with me once. What's wrong is always available to us. So is what's right.
I love that.
And um, I think that for a lot of us, and what I would share with you is as you're going through all those lists of things of what, like, he got bullied, he's sick, got into a fist fight, whatever, but
Yeah.
make an equal amount of lists, a number of things that are positive
Right.
and that you
Right.
can try to balance it, right? And maybe he just misses me, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the power went out and it's hot
Yeah.
and he wants to come home, right?
Yeah.
And you can see, like, when you're making that counterbalance of lists that fit the fact pattern, the possibilities that fit the fact pattern, I think you would agree that your breath is slowing down, you're a little bit calmer, and it snaps you out of limbic hijack to where you start to be able to see different perspectives.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we're all operating under assumptions, especially when we're
Mhm.
stressed, right? And we're not always conscious of those assumptions.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of assumptions that we make about ourselves or about what is what pieces of information are obvious versus not obvious,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um,
And I think we
I'm
do that because we understand that the risk of being wrong is enormous. It's monumental, right? Like if
Yeah,
you made the assumption that the air is out and he's hurt, like, that's an asymmetric risk you can't afford because it's so
right.
grave. And that's what I just want to share, that that's why we're making those assumptions.
Exactly. Again, it is protective. It's meant to serve a purpose.
Yeah.
It's just important to understand when you're feeling stress so that you're more likely to make those assumptions when you're under a state of stress, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like your brain physiologically is trying to conserve energy. It's preparing your muscles for fight, flight, or freeze or fawn.
Hmm.
So you're taking these mental thinking shortcuts, and it cuts off your ability to think about all the positives that you mentioned, right? I mean,
Yeah.
this kid is at his best friend's house. We know and trust the parents. They live not even 5 minutes away.
Yeah.
We're all good friends. We're on a text thread together. If something was really wrong, I know that I would have been called,
Hmm.
or they would have brought him to me. And all of those things were actually things that I was thinking as I recognized, oh, I'm stressed. What else could be true?
Yeah.
Right. Like that was kind of how I brought myself back was,
Yeah. Exactly.
it's the stress part of it. It's so simple to think, well, yeah, obviously, if you recognize you're stressed, but so many of us don't. And I remember talking to somebody that was like, I, I was told that this person was telling me that when they were told that they were clenching their fists in meetings. And that's how his team knew that whatever was happening wasn't really sitting well with him. He was not happy about it, right?
Yeah.
So, but he didn't recognize that he was sitting there clenching his fist for the world to see, and it was like a tell,
Yeah, it was
right?
like, oh.
So, yeah, but just simply becoming aware of, like, maybe you clench your fist, maybe you do this funny thing with your jaw, maybe you start, like my husband does this thing where he like starts to shake his leg.
Yeah.
Um, there's all sorts of ways your body is talking to you.
Yeah.
And the faster you recognize that stress in your body, you can do things like breathe, walk away, think about all the assumptions that you're making and what also might positively be true, right?
Yeah.
You can't do anything about stuff that you are not aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. And just taking a pause, right? Just taking a second to um, zoom out a little bit,
Yeah.
get a different perspective can all help with just slowing down the runaway train. When we're stressed, it's easy to fall into the victim mindset, as we
Mm-hmm.
talked about at the top of the show, actually, right? Where you started thinking that, you know, how did I end up in this position for a failure of someone else, right? Like, why?
Right.
I know you didn't say this, but in my mind, it could easily become like, why did you put me in this position to text and not call or do something that you know would get my attention? Why did you stop short, right?
Right.
And I think, we can choose to do it that way and maybe shut down and not make any progress on the actual problem, or we can, stay away from asking questions like why me, or how could you put me in this position, and say, what can we do to improve this, or what can I learn from it. And I think the critical part is actually doing something, right?
Mm.
Not just questioning or asking or things like that. And action can cure a lot of anxiety and a lot of rumination and a lot of stress. So, in using the story of the missed text, one action could have just, it said, what did you say? Tell me the time period. You said 10 minutes, right? All those things sort of ran through
10
your
seconds.
10
10
seconds. Yeah.
seconds. Like, it was fast.
Yeah, it was fast. And you could also start going over there, right? In 2-3 minutes. I think you said it was 5 minutes away.
Yeah.
You could pick up the phone call the parents, whatever. And doing, in a lot of instances, not all instances, will put us back in the driver's seat.
Right.
And that somehow makes the stress take a backseat, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think so much of it becomes, oh, I have to do this. I have to do this, instead of just actually doing the thing.
Yeah.
But there's a caveat to that. And I would offer, you want to make sure that you're not reacting, right? You're really thoughtfully responding here, because all of those options, frankly, came into my mind, right? Like, well, I called him, he's not picking up. Okay, I'm going to call again. I'm going to call again.
Yeah.
I could call the parents. I could go over there. You know, I all sorts of options. And I actively decided, because I was thinking about what also could be true, that was enough for me to sort through that and be like, okay, I'm going to choose to wait it out. I'm going to choose to see what happens, because he's likely, if he was up at 1 a.m,
Probably still sleeping.
he's probably still sleeping now, right?
Yeah.
Like, of course he's not picking up his phone.
Yeah.
And so I think that the caveat there to taking action is just make sure you're taking action from a place of clarity.
Yeah.
Which is why understanding when you're stressed is going to be helpful, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the other thing that you mentioned here that I really loved was the matter of perspective, in terms of what could also be true. But then too, is this going to matter in 5 minutes, 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years? Because a lot of times, sometimes we get stressed about silly things like, oh, well, I was supposed to go out with a friend and then they canceled last minute, and you can go into this, oh, she always cancels on me, blah, 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 blah. Is it really going to matter tomorrow? Probably not. So why get, all bent out of shape now?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Perspective matters.
I will take it to my grave where I say that every problem is a problem of perspective. If you can,
Mm,
if you have something that is disturbing you or troubling you, it's just another perspective that will help you find the solution to that problem.
exactly. Stress is temporary. It's
Mhm.
often self-created, again, like you said. But the beauty of it is that it's also self-cured, right? If it's self-created, then it's self-cured and you're in control of whether or not something is going to stress you out. Of course, outside of, there's obviously very stressful things that happen, things like medical diagnoses that are scary, or a
Mhm.
divorce, or, something along those lines that tends to give you a good jarring.
Yeah.
Um,
But
we,
again, but we have to
yeah,
keep perspective. Divorce can be release of stress for a lot of people,
absolutely.
right? So the thing itself is not the stressor. It's the
Right.
meaning we apply to it, and we have to be careful not to project our meanings onto certain actions and how people would perceive them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know a very inspirational woman who received the diagnosis of breast cancer,
Mm.
and it changed her life. And she's
Mhm.
she's so grateful for
Yeah.
that. So it really is all in how you see things. Um, and I think the last thing, because this podcast is for over ambitious, like highly ambitious, people.
What are we doing here then?
What are we doing here? I don't know. We're maybe on the wrong show, but I think we expect a lot out of ourselves. Too much, honestly.
Mm.
I think we're very easily our own worst critics. And so we put it on ourselves to be, a good dad or a good mom, whatever definition we've made that mean.
Yeah.
If we know we should, for example, not react, but we should respond. We know that here, but then we expect ourselves to be able to do it perfectly all the time in every situation, regardless of how tired we are or how much information we have or don't have, or,
Mhm.
we expect so much. And we would never realistically expect that of another person, even
Mhm.
necessarily, but we
Mhm.
expect that of ourselves. And I think that creates a lot of stress.
We do, because sometimes, we're, again, just a matter of perspective. And I think taking a step back can do a lot to help us see things through another lens.
Mm, yeah. I'm actually so grateful that this text thing happened, because I've started thinking, I could expect him to quote unquote know better.
Hmm.
Like, it's kind of obvious to me. Why wouldn't you just call?
Hmm.
But clearly, it's obvious to me and not obvious to him.
Yeah.
Right. So now I get to have this conversation with him about, okay, next time, here's what you can do.
Yeah.
And if you really feel like you can't get a hold of me, I want you to feel like you can go to the adult that you are with
Yeah.
and advocate for yourself, right?
Hmm.
Or, what are other options? Maybe I need to have a word with the other parents and say, hey, this is what happened. Just letting you know, so that I told my kid that it's okay to let you know
Hmm.
if he's really feeling like he needs to come home and it's 3 in the morning or 1 in the morning,
Yeah.
right? Just so all the adults are on the same page too, right? There's
Yeah.
a myriad of different things that I can do. But I don't think I would have thought about ways to help him through this had this not happened.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's the best part, is that, it was sort of an instance that didn't have any severe consequences, that allows you to plan better.